Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of A Healthy Dose of Fran. Today I'll be carrying on with my previous segment, Why? And today I'll be looking at why Atlantis The Lost Empire is the most underrated Disney movie of all time. Let's get right to it. So for the initial release of Atlantis, which was out in 2001, the main reasons I believe it could have not had as much of an audience viewership and have made as much money as any other previous Disney project, I think is possibly because it was so different to anything Disney had ever produced before. Not only had this film not had a big budget to actually make the film with, but the animation style was very different to anything that Disney had produced before, having a sort of more artistic imagery sort of thing, kind of anime related artistry really. And with how Disney animation had been, it was just very different from the normal look of a Disney film. What I also think may have kind of influenced the lack of interest in this film at the time of its release is because it blended the gender markets more than any other film had before. With Disney, and it's unsurprising because it is Disney, more films than not have one gender they're focused at. Disney princesses, they're all for girls and only girls can like the Disney princess movies, they're all towards girls. And then there's the other few that kind of go towards more boys than anything, like Hercules and Tarzan and things like that, where it's kind of a boys film, just going off the stereotypes with that. But Atlantis had a mixture of different characters that it focused on. Even though the main character was male, there were so many more female characters that came up that had strong roles in the film, including Kida, who is a princess who goes on to be a queen later on as well, and she's a strong female lead, alongside Milo, who was very different to the traditional male Disney characters in that he wasn't heroic in the traditional sense. He was an academic, he was a nerd, so to speak, and that was very different to the traditional characters that you would see. And obviously at this point as well, other than Mulan and a little bit of Pocahontas as well, Kida's princess character was also very badass. She was her own person. She would go out, she would protect, she was a warrior. She didn't just kind of sit around really. She's kind of possibly even that went on to influence characters like Merida, who was all about being her own person even as a princess. But because of these strong female and strong male characters, I feel like there was this blend that came in the gender market that kind of confused fans, because more often than not it was one or the other. You couldn't have both. It was like anarchy in the Disney world. And I don't know for definite that this is what influenced the reason why it didn't end up being popular, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did have an influence. But I think that's just a ridiculous excuse, and considering how little Disney advertised this film as well, Disney are responsible for the reason why it didn't make enough money, which then went on to be their reason why they don't include like Kida, for example, in the princess lineup. And they have the 3 rules things behind it, which is, oh god, what was it? They have to be human, they have to be princess by title of committed a heroic act, and then money. So they had to have been a money maker, which is why like Elsa and Anna became huge and have kind of gotten their own things because they made a lot of money. But because Atlantis didn't, Kida and Milo, who then later on goes on to most likely become the prince or king or whatever term they would have used with his relationship with Kida, they weren't classed as Disney characters and they don't get into the lineup because the film didn't make enough money. And it's kind of, Disney just shot themselves in the foot really with this because they didn't advertise it. I remember, I don't even know how old I was, maybe like 6 or 7. I never saw it advertised. Like, I didn't get the film itself until a couple of years later in a Blockbuster, which if anyone remembers those were the days. But yeah, the moment I watched the film though, I fell in love with the characters and the story, and interesting, and it developed a myth that, like with Hercules, looking at the Greek mythology, Atlantis did the same, going by the title, because Plato, who was the philosopher in ancient Greece, was the one who first discussed Atlantis, and Atlantis is all about the Greek gods punishing Atlantis and sending it under the earth, under the waters. And it's such an interesting concept, and it's just unfortunate that it never really got explored or noticed by Disney fans. Even more so now, when with millennials being the nostalgia generation, this film, I feel like, would talk to us more, because it's all about adventure and history and learning and collaboration and working together and finding friends and kind of finding who you are. And with how good its characterization was as well, I feel like it would be more interesting to us, because with the movements that are going on now to kind of get more representation in film and television, this film fit that bill. We had Latina characters with Audrey, who was a mechanic, a 15-year-old mechanic. Just let that sink in. She's just gone on this journey to find Atlantis. She's the head engineer, and she's 15 years old. She may be 16 now that I'm saying it, but still, 15, 16 years old, Latina woman, head of engineering, and is on an adventure to find Atlantis. That's a brilliant character, and she's the fiercest character. She is an amazing character. She was my favourite when I was watching this film when I was younger. And yes, obviously I realise now that it was for gay reasons, but also because I wanted to have that level of confidence that she had. Same with Helga, who kind of was a bad guy, but then also not a bad guy. Another strong female character. We had so many strong female characters, which growing up with is amazing. Then we also had strong male characters with Milo, who was all about knowledge and academia and learning and exploring and all these things. And he didn't care that he wasn't strong or what men should be, as this is like early 1900s where you have to be a man's man. And he doesn't care about that. He likes to learn, he likes to explore, and it's just a brilliant thing that for like a little boy to look up to. And then we've got Sweet, who is what's the word I'm for? So he's one of the doctor on the crew, but he's got a mixed heritage as well. So his dad was African American and his mother was Native American, and he embraces both of those heritages as both and that, oh my god, my words are getting messed up because this is just a brilliant film and I can literally talk about this forever. But the whole thing with Sweet is he embraces this in both his medical world, embracing the Native American medicine, but then also the academic side of medicine. He's just such a brilliant character. He's such a nice character as well. And there are just so many good characters that were appearing in this film. And funny characters as well, because you've got to have them for young kids as well. So you've got Vinny, who's this sort of, I don't know if he's definitely European from his accent, but I'm not sure if he's supposed to be Russian or not, who is an explosives expert, but wants to own a flower shop, even though he still likes blowing stuff up. And it's just brilliant. Him and Mole, who is this French geologist, I think, or something like that. He knows stuff about dirt. He like lives for dirt. And those two are kind of like thick as thieves. They are the comedy of the film, is in that they both kind of do what they want, and they're both a bit odd. Mole more so, and that's kind of like, as a kid I loved Mole. He was kind of creepy but weird in a good way, and it's just generally all around brilliant cast and characters, and so many amazing characters to look up to as a kid. And when I was watching this when I was 8 or 9 or whatever, I couldn't stop watching this film, and I can't stop watching it now. I think I've seen this film now at least 80 times. I watch it 3 times a year, so that's probably Is that it? I'm really bad at maths, but I actually maybe more than 3 times a year. Basically, I watch this film as many times as I want throughout a year, and I've been doing that since I got this film. I'm surprised my DVD hasn't broken from the amount of times that I watched this film. And it's just such a great story as well. The whole thing is that Milo's grandfather, who raised him after his parents died, was always considered to be crazy by the academic world for wanting to find Atlantis. A friend of his grandfather's brings Milo out and saying, we found the journal that can lead us to Atlantis, the one that your grandfather was trying to find. But he did find it, but he died before he was able to go and explore it. He saw Milo's passion to find Atlantis, and he showed him the team that he'd hired to go. So they all go off to go find Atlantis. A lot of people die, unfortunately, of the crew that were there. Not of the main cast, but of the characters that were involved who were in the submarines and such. So there's a lot of darkness that does happen in this film, and there's kind of dark sides of humanity. They go on and they find Atlantis. So I keep knocking the table with my excitement. So they find Atlantis and they meet Kida, the princess of Atlantis. And we also find out that all the people there have been there since the Great Flood, which is the thing that buried Atlantis under the ocean. So Kida remembers it happening, and her and Milo begin to kind of develop a certain chemistry. But this is just skipping ahead for a bit in the story. What I kind of like about the Kida and Milo relationship is that they don't have them end up in a relationship at the end of the film. You can see that there's something developing, but there's no kind of real finale for it. Whereas in every other Disney film that has a romance, you have the kiss, you have the happily ever after. But in this, you kind of get the sense of there's something more that could come. And you can come with your own conclusions with it. You could see it as a friendship that could build. You could see it as love that could build. And I really kind of like that, because it's showing this idea that it doesn't have to be love, it doesn't have to be romantic. And just generally, it's a really interesting concept to see as a young person, where in every film that you see, there is romance between a man and a woman. There's no doubt, if there's a man and a woman, they're going to fall in love. But with this, it's just kind of, it doesn't show it completely, and I liked that. And then again, also, you get the Legend of Atlantis. I lived for that shit. I loved Greek stuff. I loved ancient mythology and ancient studies and things like that, even when I was younger. And the fact that there was a film that was for kids that explored this, alongside like Hercules, which was more about the Greek gods, which I enjoyed as well, but from an actual kind of real life perspective, it was such an interesting concept. And what's even cooler, when they were making this film, they actually created a language for the Atlanteans, and we experienced this language. So Milo can speak a little bit of it from his reading, because he's a linguist in the academic world. So he's learnt bits of this, and he's learnt to read it and things like that. And there was so much work that went into making this film and creating these characters and having such development for each of these characters. Like, it turns out that all the characters bar Milo are actually not militants, that's not the word. They're kind of there for their own gain. Is it missionaries? Something like that. So basically this whole thing was a trick. They were coming there to take the gold and all these sort of things to kind of get money. And in the end, so Rourke, who is kind of the leader for it, and very Western, he is the main bad guy, and he'll happily kill the entire race of Atlanteans for money. Whereas the rest of them, they kind of see that what they're doing isn't right, and they decide, no, we can't do this. And there is obviously the happy ending that comes, but it's kind of met with a little bit of trepidation. There is the wariness behind it, that anyone could fall to that side, and there are casualties. Like Keda's father is murdered by Rourke, and we see it happen. He gets beaten by Rourke and ends up with internal bleeding, and it's kind of like, it kind of really puts everything into perspective with what's going on. And when Rourke hits Milo and makes him bleed, it makes the others realise what we're doing isn't right. And it's kind of like, it's a really interesting, I'm going to keep going on about this. I can already see this video is already going up to like 18 minutes probably. But yeah, so I don't understand why Atlantis is an underrated film, because of all these things that are involved with it. And just for those who haven't seen it, give it a chance completely. You won't regret watching this film. It's not insulting, it's not rude, that's not what I'm trying to say. Oh my god, I'm getting so up with this. It's such a great film. It will be worthy of your time, I promise you that. So go watch it. Don't find it somewhere online, or go get the DVD. It's not going to be expensive. They don't sell them for much these days. I think the cheapest one I've seen is like £2. So go get it, watch it, experience the greatness of Atlantis The Lost Empire, and you will not regret it. So yeah, those are my thoughts of why Atlantis may be underrated. Not that I can justify the reasons behind it, because it's such a brilliant film. But I want to thank you guys so much for watching this kind of rant that I've just had about Atlantis The Lost Empire. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, you should go and do that. There'll be a button popping up here at some point, and there's the button down below, as well as hitting the notification bell that you should definitely do. If you're not following me on Instagram and on my blog, you should probably do that. Links in the description box below. I'm having videos coming out whenever, but there will always be one out on a Sunday or an alternate Wednesday. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. You should just go and watch Atlantis now after this, or you watch another video of mine that'll be popping up somewhere on screen. But yeah, thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.